today on Revelry. Thank you to everyone who's coming to join us today. Whether you're a new viewer, thanks for checking me out, or returning, thanks for coming back for another week. So I hope you guys have some knitting and hopefully something to drink. I drink when I knit. Not like, well, sometimes I drink alcohol, but I find that if I drink alcohol when I knit, I totally mess up. So I really try to avoid that. It's like the next day, I look at my knitting and I'm like, oh yeah, 20 rows ago, totally messed up, and then I have to rip it all out. Kidding me. Got some coffee here today. I digress. So, I hope you guys had a wonderful week. I had a great week. We are doing some things in the group. We have a cal going on right now for autism awareness. And so, we are trying to knit with something blue. It's called the blue cal, and it's going to go on for April and May. So the price for that, I don't know if I have it here. Let me see. I think I'm prepared. Is this Skein of Plucky. It is beautiful clear blue color. It is NPN light in the Sisters colorway. And we'll be giving that away. So your finished object needs to have blue in it. Predominantly blue would be wonderful, but blue in it. And it can be anything, big, small, anything with needlecraft. So crochet, knitting, belting, weaving, really anything. I'm up for it. You don't have to convince me. I'm pretty easygoing. So that's going on in a group right now. We also have another thing where if you leave an iTunes review, every 10 people who leave an iTunes review, is entered to win a Skein exam, which is this one. So what I have decided is I'm going to keep this going. I don't have 10 yet, but once I have 10, we'll raffle these off. If you leave a star rating, please remember to DM me on Ravelry, because there's no way for me to look up who actually left the star rating. If you leave a written review, your name's on there, and I can enter you automatically. But unfortunately, stars just, they don't keep a log of that I can find. If there's a way for me to find out, can somebody tell me? Because I have no idea. After we do the 10 for iTunes, I'm thinking about maybe exploring the other avenues in which people watch me in YouTube maybe. So if people comment on my YouTube channel or share, we'll do another Skein again. And so I'm going to think about that a little bit. If you guys have any ideas or suggestions, let me know. And I think for this kind of giveaway, I will always do hand spun. Hand spun is made by me with love, and I just really want to share the joy. And not everybody spins. Knitting with hand spun is quite the experience. I really love it, and it's kind of addicting. So that's what we have going on in the group. And so what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to get right into the knitting. I have a lot to share. I had a really productive week. I had a really great week, and so let's just start. I have been going through that bin of unfinished objects, and that bin came about because when I was working still, before I stayed home, I think I wasn't in a good place, and so I didn't have a place for anything. I was super stressed out. I should have just been knitting stockinette for hours, and instead I kept on picking up these complicated projects that I knew I could do, like they were within my skill set as a knitter, but I would basically just not have the capacity to do them. I was so stressed out, I would mess them up. I was reading the instructions. When you read something but you don't really read it? Oh, totally me. I was like, oh yeah, I read that. Or I would think, I totally know what I'm doing, and then I wouldn't read the instructions and mess up. And so I kept on putting stuff down, and then wanting a little bit of joy of casting something on, and it basically created, for the first time in my knitting life, a big unfinished object. Usually in prior years, I've always finished what I have cast on or I progressed. I didn't have stuff just sitting there forever. And in the last year, it's really gotten pretty bad. And so I'm determined to get the stuff either frogged or completed. I have almost frogged everything that I'm actually going to frog, and right now the only things that are left are stuff that I'm going to try to finish. So on that task, I picked up the Ashby, which is a shawl that was in wool. This is a paper pattern. I think it's $6.75. It is a worsted weight shawl, and the way that you do it is you knit the border, and then you pick up and you knit the main body of the shawl. So I set this down for multiple reasons, which I'll go into. Because it's Sharon time. This is the border. I am almost done. I am on my decrease section on this side. So I only have that much tip left to do. I should get this done today. I'll sit down and split it up and pick up the border. One of the reasons why I picked this is because the main body of the shawl itself is a somewhat simple stitch pattern, and so I really can take this and knit on it multiple places. When I'm in the car or when I'm watching her at gymnastics or swim. So I need a kind of mindless project that isn't heavily charted during that time. I've taken charted stuff with me to them before, and the problem is you don't have anywhere to set it. You have like a folding chair to sit in, maybe, and that's it. So I don't really have anywhere to prop up a chart and look through it, and lots of my stuff that I'm working on right now is charted. So I need something more simplistic. So I decided I would pull this out. I totally want to finish shawl. Like I really want it. So hopefully that drive will get me there. So why did I set this down? Well, it was one of those, I read the pattern but didn't really read the pattern. And I had to rip it back to do this turn right here, this short row section to make that point. I seriously had to rip it out 2 or 3 times to get it right. And that was really frustrating. For me, I don't really mess up that much, and I don't typically have to rip back that much, so it was a lesson in patience. The second thing is that this pattern calls for 740 yards of a worsted. I had 800 yards of Becoming Art, I think it's called like the Zero Worsted, which is discontinued. It was my favorite base that she used to carry. Number one, it was one of her lowest price pieces, if not the lowest one that she ever had. But beyond all that, it was my favorite base she carried. It's just merino wool, and I love it. I've knit quite a few things out of it. It wears really well, and it's nice and soft. It's got a lot of very nice properties. So I can't get more of this yarn. If I run out, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm about 60% sure I'm going to run out of yarn, even though I have 60 yards over recommended. So I'm just going to soldier on through, and then when I get to that point, decide what I'm going to do, and see how much I have left, whether I can throw in a compensating corresponding colorway or something like that. I'll figure it out. Let me know. So I'm very excited, and I knit about this far last night. I just picked this up again and knit that much. So it goes really quickly once I actually do sit down and knit on it. The big things about this pattern, I would tell someone, is that it is heavily charted. Actually, everything is charted in this pattern, and it would be behooving to you to be able to re-chart this pattern. Now, it's not impossible. You could learn to do charts on this, but I would suggest that you would already know how to do them. And why I say that is there's particular spots in the pattern, and the way, in my experience, Brooklyn T does his chart is that this symbol, he uses the same symbol of whether it's on the right side or the wrong side, and that symbol means 2 different things depending if you're on the right side or the wrong side. Now, many people who chart will actually switch that, and so that they correspond correctly. Like, as an example, on one side, on the right side, it is a knit 2 together. On the wrong side, it's the same symbol for knit 2 together, but what it means is slip, slip, curl through the back loop on the wrong side. As a beginning knitter, just doing charts, I would have totally messed it up. So, but maybe if you know that, and you know that he uses the same symbols, but depending on what side of row you're on, they mean different things, would help you. The second thing about this pattern is that while the main body is very simplistic, this border has lots of cables. This right here, these little edges, so there's 4 of them, are cabled every other row. This over here is a 4-row cable. And the zigzag that you have here is also a chase-through cable. It is, I think, a 24-row repeat, and I would say at least 16 of those rows are actually cables. And so they're not typical cables, but I would suggest that you would be able to cable without a cable needle. Just for the time-saving aspect, this would be a really good project to learn how to cable without a cable needle, because the cables that you are doing are extremely small. A lot of times you're just switching 1 stitch, 2 stitches, and you're cabling those 2 stitches. And so it's very easy to cable without a cable needle, and it would be a good project to learn. But the charts are nice and big. They're very clear. And I do enjoy his patterns and his layout. As you can tell, I knit quite a few of Wool People's patterns. But so this is going along. I hope to finish the rest of that, the decrease and the point, in the next few days and pick up. So hopefully next week I'll be on the main body of the shawl. Okay, the second thing that I'm knitting is I picked up my sweater, The Weaving by Ann Hansen. So I started this last September. There you go. And I put it down in October. So it's been sitting for 5 months, people. 5 months it's been sitting there. It's disgraceful. And I do want this sweater. That's what's worse. So, I have finished the 2 arms, and this is a piece sweater that was also in a Wool People. And, hold on 1 second, I gotta go pull my nose. Sorry. Hi everyone, sorry about that. I'm back. So, whatever my child had, I think she passed it along to me. My body's doing a really good job at fighting it, but he still has like congestion and a sore throat, so I didn't think anyone wanted to see me blow my nose. But anyways, we're talking about the Weaving Sweater by Ann Hansen that was in a Wool People. It was one of the beginning Wool People, 1 or 2. I do love this sweater and I really want it. It's been sitting for so long, so at least I was smart and I left off at the beginning of the pattern repeat for the carded section, so I was able to pick it up relatively quickly. And this is what I have. So I already have the 2 sleeves done, and this is a piece sweater, and so I am now on my way to the back. So it's a nice long sweater, and this is out of Madeline Tosh Sport in the Vanilla Bean colorway. And I actually bought this yarn to knit this pattern, and I am very happy with the result. I think it's turning out really, really great. I want to stretch that pattern a little bit for you so you can see it. So I am up the armhole. Let's see if I can get this for you. Oh, stockinette wants to curl. You know how that is. So here I am. I am almost done with this armhole section. I have another 1/2 inch on this, and then I will go to bind off the back neck and do the shoulders. So again, I hope to have this back piece done next week. And I am going to knit the cardigan. So this sweater has lots of options, and you can knit it as a cardigan or as a pullover. But I really like cardigans more. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm very excited. I'm getting closer. So hopefully I can keep steam on with that. Again, it is cabled, and they're not hard. It's actually not cabled. No, it's not cable. It is knit through the glass loop, purl, decreases, and increases to basically create this center motif. So no cable. It is carded. It is somewhat intuitive, but I am still dependent on the chart. So this motif also went down the arm, and it's in the back, and it's on both the front panels. Although it is the same motif for all of those pieces, it is sized according to what piece you're on. So like the motif that's on the arms is much smaller than this back motif, and so the chart significantly changed. So you do, unless you can memorize stuff very simply and quickly, then you most likely are going to have to keep the chart with you. I do have to keep the chart with me. I have to look at it. Not for every row, but until I get to sections that change, I have to go ahead and look at it and see what I'm doing. I at least have to glance at it every few rows because I don't really want to rip back. This is the third or fourth pattern of Ann Hansen's that I have knit. And I have to say, I really do like her pattern. There's a lot of options, but they're also extremely well thought out, and there's a lot of little tiny details that I really do appreciate. So I will do a further review once it's all done, but I'm really, really enjoying it. So that is the second project, and I have a third project. I hardly ever knit on three things at the same time, but I'm living on the edge, people. So I did cast on for our blue tail, and I was true to my word. I cast on the Rock Island by Jared Flood, and I'm knitting this out of the Woolen Rabbit in her lace weight. And I don't have much done. I'm trying to get the right side. I don't know if there's a right side, but I need the Rock Island. Oh, good luck. See, can't. This is better. What if I put it up there? See, you can kind of see it if it's against the black better. So the Rock Island is structured as you knit the entire border. Again, I'm knitting another cell that you knit the entire border, and then you pick up on the loops and you knit the main body of the pattern. So when I first heard that, I was kind of concerned. I don't really love picking up. It's not my favorite thing to do in knitting, and I think it's because I am very concerned with spacing my pickup correctly, so I don't basically have fabric bunching, and I end up working out what I pick up, especially for sweaters and stuff. I end up ripping it out probably 2 or 3 times to get the kind of look that I'm going for, and so not my favorite thing to do. Sometimes the finished object is worth it. For the Rock Island, the way that it works is that you knit a yarn over, try to get this to you guys, on the edge, and it creates these little loops. And that's actually what you pick up, and you're going to pick up every single loop. So picking up in this pattern is going to be extremely easy, and it's going to be really uniform in an appearance. So that's really nice. The other thing about the lace border is that this is lace on both sides. There is no rest rows. It is lace, and I have to look at the chart the entire time. Now I haven't knit a lot, so there is a possibility that I could memorize this chart, although I will doubt it. And the reason why is that the way that I memorize charts is that there's a clear look to the start of each row. So clearly you can tell I must be on row 5 because I yarn over and then knit 2 together and whatever's going on. This is not apparent to me about where I am in the pattern. And I have to repeat an 8-row motif 72 times. Wow. So this might take me a really long time. I know the finished object will be worth it, and it's not as difficult as it looks. I think this looks more complicated than it really is. You have to be able to do yarn overs, knit two togethers, and slip slip knit to be able to do this. Not really complicated knitting. I'm more scared of the fact that I'm going to lose where I am in my repeat because it's so short, and I'm going to mess up this zigzag that's down the middle. I really don't want to rip it back. So I'm thinking about every night that I stop and doing a lifeline, and then knitting to the next night, and if everything is fine, ripping out the lifeline and putting it to the next one. So if I do have to rip back, it's not a catastrophe, basically. But anyways, it's going. I do really like it. I have to be careful when I knit it, because I do have to look the entire time and pay attention. It's not mindless, which is good. So I'm going on that. I'm very excited. I'm really knitting that for the finished object. I'm hoping that after the border's done and I pick it up, it doesn't seem so tedious to me. I don't know why it seems tedious. It's not as though it's super complicated. I'm just so terrified I'm going to mess it up and have to rip back. So I'm hoping lifelines will help me. I've never used lifelines before. No stopping, right? Alright, so on to finished objects. It's been quite the week, y'all. I don't think I've ever finished this many things to show you in one week. So the first finished object I have to show you is the Merlin shawl. This is by Isolde, and it is a paper pattern. This is knit out of Squish Sports MTN, and it is a club colorway called Summer Gem. And so it's all done. It is wonderful. It is so soft. I don't think I'm knitting with anything else with cashmere in it, and I think it's such a difference when you feel something that isn't cashmere and then you feel something with cashmere in it. You're like, oh, it's so soft. It is super soft. It softened up with blocking wonderful, and it stretched out nicely. I was pretty concerned because of the garter. Garter kind of shrinks in. It didn't look very long when I was knitting it, but I wetted it, and I didn't actually use any pins or wires. All I did was stretch it out and lay it flat, and it dried wonderfully. So I'm going to put it on real quick so you can see how big it is. And it will flip down there. So I really like it. This is for a Christmas present for my aunt. It is actually my mom's sister, and I've knit for my mom's other sister. So I told my other aunt that I couldn't knit her anything else until everyone was done. Gotta be fair. So this is for my aunt that I have never knit with before, and her favorite color is peach, so I'm hoping she'll like it. Right, another one for the gift bin. It is so much better than I thought it was gonna be. I haven't sewn in the end, but I'm calling her good. I'll sew in the end today before I put it in the gift bin. But I love it. I will knit this pattern again for myself. It is heavy, but not because it's like more substantial. A lot of the shawls that I have are fingering weight, and while they're great for air conditioning in the blistery winters of Michigan, and that I usually go home for like Christmas, it's really cool. And you need something just a little bit more substantial, and so I would like to knit this again. It was a great pattern. Was again a paper pattern. See a theme here. Kayla is for most of her patterns. It's a paper pattern. It was very well done. The only thing that it wasn't my personal preference in a pattern, is that it was charted, which was great, but the portions of the chart were also written out, which is great versatility for people who don't read charts. But typically when that's done, there's basically like a section that's like, this is the chart written out. But instead of that, it was cast on, you do this, these 36 rows, and then you go to the chart, and then it was written instructions. And then it was like, repeat that so many times, and then here are the other written instructions. And it wasn't really like there was a huge header that said, next you do this. So it's consistently trying to find my way in the pattern through the written instructions to see where I was, and if I had to do something special for that next section. I don't know if that really makes sense, but for a person who reads a chart, I had to kind of read through quite a lot more than I typically have to do. Now, granted, it only took me 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, it wasn't a big deal, but to me, it wasn't my preference of pattern layout. It was fine. It was just not my favorite. But I love this. And her patterns are exceptionally detailed. So it was a great pattern. And her details are really, really good. This top, like I love how this top portion, so they come together here and they split out. And this top matching section border, I guess, matches these borders down here. And it's just tied very nicely together. It was a very smart increases in the way that the bells at the bottom were done. And I've never did something like this before. So, it was a good pattern. So I finished that. We'll go backwards. That's the last thing I finished. We'll go from the last thing to the first thing. I also finished my foolproof, which is by Louise Zaff Bangham. So Louise Zaff Bangham, and she's having a cal for this in her group, the Inspiration Group on Ravelry. Actually not going to post my finished object in that thread because I feel a little bad. I started before the cal started. The cal didn't start until April 9th. And she said that we could cast on early, but I'm like a week into the cal and I'm done. And I kind of feel like I cheated. I know I did. She said I could do it, but then I feel like I cheated by casting on early. So I don't really think that I'm going to enter it to win. I think that there's a free pattern you can do. This is knit out of pigeon roof, and this was a great pattern. I did really like it. I did the written instructions for the stripe, so I basically did do my own thing. The way that it works is when you buy this pattern, you get multiple different options. One in which basically just gives you the formula for how you do this cowl. Because this cowl doesn't, you just start with a slip knot, a slip knot cast on. You're not really casting on. You don't bind off, and you don't do a Kitchener stitch or anything to join them together. And so it's very well thought out, and it's a very interesting construction type. So the two that you really get is one where you can figure out how to do the stripes in whatever order you want to do them in, however many colors you want to do them in. It's basically how you construct it to get this type of cowl. The second one is called the Inspiration Stripes, and it is the way that the designer knit her cowl, and I did the Inspiration Stripes. So there's basically 2 sides to the Inspiration one. This is the one side. This is where I cast on basically the beginning of the cowl. And over here, this more predominantly variegated section is the end of the cowl. That's one side. And this is the other side. This is knit out of Pigeon Roof Twisted Stock, and it is, I have this 100% merino, and the colorway Mystical, which is the variegated colorway, and Shade of Pale, which is the light lavender color, the purple color. I do love them together. and I do love this cowl quite a bit. So the cowl, I did block it out, and I did weave in my ends. I had 15 ends, which was a lot. Some of that was my fault. I carried my yarn most of the time. If you didn't carry your yarn through the stripe section, you would have had a lot of ends to weave in. But for multiple reasons, I had a lot of ends to weave in. At least for me. 15, I mean, it didn't take me that long. I always caveat, right? I complain about something and I'm like, but it wasn't that bad. Because everything in knitting, it may take you a little bit longer, but everything to me really isn't that bad. You know? Like, I love to knit. I actually love, like, every part of it. I love the patterns and the yarn and the needles and knitting it and having the finished objects. Like, every part of it I'm a little bit obsessed with. So anything that I'm like, it wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't that bad, is because I still enjoyed it. Like, I still liked it, right? And typically things that I don't really like or that I have a problem with, I don't show on the podcast. Because I don't think anybody wants me to be a Debbie Downer. So, it did block out much bigger. It is garter stitch. Garter stitch will stretch and block out longer. I didn't try to stretch this out very much, but it is actually almost down to my knees when I keep it. And I don't know why I thought this was going to be such a lightweight free cowl. It is pretty lightweight, but it was almost 800 yards. I don't have that much left. I should have brought my leftovers. But really, it was, I maybe have 20 yards each left over. I did make it wider than the pattern called for. So I did use more yarn. But, you know, it's probably 700 to 750 yards of a fingering weight, which, you know, that's substantial. So I love it. I love it on. It's more of a lower cowl because of how long it is, and I don't have one that's like that, so it fits in really nicely with the stuff that I do wear all the time. And it is warm, super warm, because it's just like a double layer back here when you twist it up. I don't think that I'll ever wear it not doubled up because it's too long. So, I finished this. See, and I got more. Then the last thing that I finished knitting-wise was my dad's sock. So, I did go ahead and finish this. Super excited it's done. It's lovely. I didn't weave in the ends, but I did Kitchener the toe. And why haven't I woven in the ends and blocked it? Basically because I am going to see my dad in the next few months. And so when I see him, I want him to try this on. This is the first sock I've ever knit him, and I love my dad, but I'm shaped a lot like my father. I have really big calves. They're called Smith calves. Did you all know? I can't fit in a lady like tall boot. No way. Not even the ones that are extra room. Like, I don't fit in them, and I just have really big calves. And when I was trying shoes on, this poor lady, and she was like, "Oh, you totally can," and I'm like, "No, I really can't. I've tried several times. Like, boots just do not fit me. My calves are too big." And she's just like, "Honey, you're a naysayer. You know, we're gonna put you in a boot." And I'm like, "No, we're not." So, but we can try, whatever. So we tried a few boots, and she's like, "Oh, you have tennis calves." And I'm like, "What the heck is that?" She's like, "Basically big calves." She's like, "They're super muscular, but they're just big." And a lot of tennis players, I think, I'm extrapolating, they call it tennis calf. So, I'm built like my dad. My dad's just like me. He has got big calves. They're super muscular, but they're bigger. So I want him to try it on to see if it goes up far enough for him, up the leg, like if he'd like it longer, if he would like it shorter, if it'll fit around his calf, and if the footbed is long enough or too long. I think I may have made it a little bit too long. So I started to cast on the second one, and I had to rip it out twice. And it was too late at night. So I haven't decided. I was going to say I'm going to cast it on this week, but I haven't really decided. I might wait until after he wears this one or puts it on and tells me, you need to rip this back to do the toe an inch sooner or half an inch or whatever he says, or if he wants it taller or lower, and then knit the second one to match whatever modifications I have to do on this one. And the second thing about that is I did more ribbing than I usually do, and I don't know if it was enough ribbing for him. I probably should have done another inch of ribbing because of his calf circumference. So I'm kind of, socks take me forever. They're not a quick project for me. They're not my first love or my last love. I mean, they're fine, but I always struggle with fit for socks. And so it's so hard for me to knit it. And I'm like, I just don't want to knit two and then have to rip them both out. So I'm probably just going to wait until I do. But there you go. But I did get that done. So I have a hoe. I'll show. So now it's spinning. Wow. I'm taking a lot of time this week. So I'm sorry, I'm just looking at how much time I'm taking. I gotta hurry this sucker up. For spinning, I have this week is I finished what I was working on. So I finished my Bush Fiber Arts Organic Merino in the Overheat colorway, which was a club colorway. I got 600 yards of a PK or a light worsted, and it's alright. It's a 3-ply. It's a 3-3-ply. It's been wound up, so it's not looking too great for you guys, but that's what it looks like. It is not my most favorite skein I've ever done. I'm actually pretty unhappy with it. But it was user error. So I spun my singles a little bit too thin. I did want this to be a true worsted weight. It is 9 ounces. And I split the braid very evenly, hardly any weight. And it was very consistent. The plies were all matching. I did a very good job on that part of it. But I am using a new thing to play with. I got a woolly winder with the bigger bobbin. And so this was the first time I used the woolly winder. And there are sections that are very underplied. And I will show you them because I really love you. I normally wouldn't show people my total mistakes, but for you guys, I'll do it. So, like, some of these sections, especially like focus. For me, that's very underplied. In that section, this middle section right here, a lot of it is really underplied for me. But then you can see, like, up here is how I normally ply. And so there's an inconsistency in the twist in my ply. So I don't really know what to do. If the whole thing was underplied, I would run it back through my machine, my wheel, and I would add more twist to it. But the problem is about 75% of it is perfect, and 25% of it is underplied. So I don't want to run it back through my spinning wheel and overply the stuff that's perfect to compensate for that 25% that's not. Some people really like the amount of twist that's in this, and I have seen multiple wonderful knitted objects with what I consider a low amount of twist. It's personal preference. I just really like a quick twisted yarn. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it as is, and I'm going to knit something with it. If I have a huge problem with it, or the knitting is coming out awful, then I'll probably try to run it back through. But I'm probably making, something out of nothing. But I just worked so long on this. This took me a month. So it's kind of like a month of work, and then it didn't turn out perfect. It is soft as kitten, and it has has awesome, awesome coconut. Like, I just want to squish it. Oh. And I do really like the woolly winder. This is really the first time I've worked on a woolly winder, which was part of the problem. I probably should have chosen something else to do. That's my overconfidence right there, biting me in the butt. I really did like the woolly winder, especially the fly-in. And the bobbin is huge. I got 9 ounces of a DK worsted on it. No problem. I could have fit more. So, I mean, I really like that they have huge bobbins for those. My matchless, I can fit 4 ounces of a fingering on it, but I probably, if I would have applied this on my regular flyer on my matchless, I would have had to break this up into 3 stages, for sure. And so I'm very excited with the possibilities of the woolly winder. Honestly, especially for flying. That's really one of the major reasons why I got it. It was like, well, you know, you could get a bulky, like a jumbo flyer kit for your wheel. And when I can spend all of this with one, so basically you have what your wheel comes with, which is called a standard. And those bobbins usually are smaller. Some companies you can fit 2 ounces on them. Some companies you can fit 4 ounces. Like a Hansen regular flyer, you can fit 11 to 12 ounces. Their regular standard flyer is gigantic. That's not very common. It's more common during the 3 to 4 ounce range of a standard flyer of what you can fit. How much really is that? That's about 1 bump of fiber. And a lot of that time, like on my matchless, I can fit 4 ounces of a single, but I cannot fit 4 ounces of a worsted weight diameter single. I can only fit maybe 3. And so your usage would vary. The second thing that you can do is that you can buy what's called a flyer package. And almost every wheel company has a package where basically you can get different parts for your wheel to accommodate a larger bobbin. It's not cheap, it's expensive. Sometimes they're $300, $350. I mean, they're quite expensive. And you get a jumbo bobbin where you can fit that 8 ounces or however much it is, basically bigger capacity for flying or for doing art yarn or other things that take up more space. The woolly winder is a flyer that winds your yarn as you move. So as I spin, it consistently has a mechanism that's mechanic, and it moves back and forth, and it layers that yarn on the bobbin. So you're using up, number 1, as little space as possible, but number 2, it has bigger bobbins. So I can fit more than 8 ounces on a regular woolly winder bobbin. I think I have the jumbo woolly winder bobbin, but I think that its capacity is 11 ounces. So I can fit 11 ounces, which is more than 2 regular bumps of fiber on a bobbin. So like when I'm doing 2 bumps like this is, I can fly it into one gigantic skein instead of having to split it up into multiple skeins. Basically is all it is. I find that a lot nicer. I don't like having to weave in multiple ends. I'll try to use this all together, so why wouldn't I want a big skein of it? And I like big fat skeins of squishy goodness. There you go. There you have it. Okay. That's all I have for you this week. It was an extra long show. I have totally got so much done this week, and I am feeling the knitting mojo. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week full of happiness and just awesomeness. And knit with some love, you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Maybe. Now again. Bye.